Yo, what is going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel, and in today's video we're going to be showcasing the brand new Dabi that just got added into My Hero Ultra Impact. So like I said in the last video, the only way we would deviate from like the random name generator is if we pulled the newest character that just got added into the game, and well, we did. I actually pulled him with a silver ticket, not even a multi, so that's just even more proof that we need to make a video about this character because that's insane luck. But yeah, we've got the new Dabi in the game based off of his Season 7 appearance, aka Delta Dabi, because he's in his Delta villain costume. The reason why I know it's his Delta villain costume is because this is his 4th villain costume in the entire series, and honestly, it's the coolest. I mean, like, by far, it's the coolest. It looks the most different because all of the other ones, while they've had slight upgrades and changes to his like villain costume, they've all had the same base where it's just like the white t-shirt with like the dark jacket, but this one's got like the white jacket that's all been burned and it looks very nice. Plus he's got more burn scars. Overall, it's a very cool design, especially with like his white hair. So overall, it's an extremely nice look. So yeah, we're going to be taking a look at Season 7 Dabi, aka Delta Dabi, the one that fought Todoroki in Season 7 at Ground Zero. So yeah, let's just get into it. I'm super excited to take a look at this new Dabi. So Dabi is a blue type character and he's a UR. I have him maxed out in the level department, the advanced leveling department, and the trust level as well. Going over to his ability boards, we'll start off with the basic route like always. I'm about to finish up page 7, and then I've got 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and 13, which I will probably do because this is honestly the coolest Dabi I own in this game, so I'll probably make it like my primary Dabi, so I will definitely try to like finish up the basic route. But for right now, I just wanted to at least awaken him and then kind of like work on him with like the leftover stamina I had left over to, you know, get ready for the showcase, because I want to get the showcase out as soon as possible to show off this brand new Dabi. Also, I didn't mention this in the intro, but this is a unique variant of Dabi. We've never seen this outfit in any other MHA game yet. I'm sure we'll see it in the future because it's such a cool costume. But yeah, that's why I really wanted to get this video out as soon as possible to show off a unique variant of Dabi, because it's, again, honestly the coolest in my opinion. But yeah, so that's where I'm at currently on the basic route. On the peace route, I got him all the way up to, what is that, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The 6th node on the board. I've got 3 left for 2 reasons. 1, because I wanted to at least get him to level 90. And 2, I ran out of stars. I mean, I've been working on a ton of characters for this series coming back, and I kind of just ran out of stars, but I will definitely be finishing this up when I get more stars. So yeah, and then going over to the DX piece route, I didn't pull an extra copy of him. I probably won't try to pull for an extra copy of him, mainly because I like to try to get at least 1 copy of the character, and then any extras that come later is nice. But I like to save my hero gems for like other characters when they get added in, especially like unique characters or maybe unique variants or new characters just to the game itself because of like the trust level and stuff. And it's also just cool to have like a new character in this game when we do get like an actually new character. So yeah, I like to save my hero gems for like them, but that's why I'm not trying to like go for like another copy of Dabi. Even though this is a really cool Dabi, that's just how I like to summon. But going over to his skills, he does get an event bonus for the Schemes and Scoffing Blue Flames event because he was introduced with that event, and he increases items obtained from event quests by 30%, which is really nice. Going over to his plus ultra move, it's called Flash Fire Fish Jet Burn, which makes sense because that's the move he used during the fight against Todoroki. Deals 600% damage to a single opponent with a high chance of burning them in Hellfire for 3 turns, and then this skill gains Bullseye. So 600% damage to a single opponent is pretty good actually. 600% damage is really nice on top of like all the other stuff he's going to be doing in his kit, because he's got a lot going with his kit, which also is going to be really interesting because in the last video we took a look at the oldest UR character, and in this video we're taking a look at the newest UR character. And I talked about how in the last video the older characters struggle against the newer ones mainly because their kits are more like defined and like detailed. Like the old ones don't really hold a torch because they don't balance patch a game. So if you look at like an older character's skills, like the oldest UR character in the game, and compare it to like the newest UR characters in the game, you can clearly tell how dated the character is by their skill descriptions. So go check out that video if you haven't, so you can see and compare like how an older character, like the oldest character, like the oldest UR character, I mean, in the game, like compares up to like the newest UR character in the game. Like you'll see how dated that character is. But yeah, 600% damage to a single opponent, like I said, pretty good. All of his moves in his kit are single target attacks, which is not the greatest for PvP. You really want multi-target attacks, but you can still do really well with single target attacks. I mean, a lot of characters have single target attacks, especially with like their plus ultra move. So that's why I'm saying like it could be better, but like it's not like the worst thing in the world. It's actually kind of just standard. So overall, not bad. And also it makes sense why all of his attacks are single target, because again, he's so fixated on Todoroki during that fight, so it makes a lot of sense. He also has a high chance of burning them in Hellfire for 3 turns, so that's really good because that plays into his kit. What Hellfire does is, if the opponent is burning, for however many turns they have left of burning, they'll just take it all in one go. So for example, if the opponent's burning for 3 turns, like they have 3 turns remaining on their burn, you hit them with Hellfire, which you have a high chance to do that with his plus ultra move, they'll take all 3 turns of burn in one go. And then that's pretty much it. So it basically just happens all at once. Like the burn damage just comes in all at once. So that's how Hellfire works. It's a pretty cool effect. And then the skill gaining Bullseye is just a cherry on top because it plays into his kit really well, which we'll talk about later in his auto skills. But also Bullseye is just really nice to have on any character because of the speed meta right now in PvP. A lot of characters have like evasion or sharp eye now, which allows the opponent to dodge attacks. So having Bullseye kind of just counters that because it basically means you're never going to miss. So overall, it's a really good plus ultra move. And yeah, let's go into his next skill, which is his first action skill. It's called Blue Purge. It deals 350% damage to a single opponent, decreases the opponent's critical resistance by 30% for 3 turns with a medium chance of burning the opponent for 3 turns. This skill gains Bullseye and the cooldown time on it is 4 turns. So 350% damage is alright. When it comes to Dabi, I always think about him dealing like massive devastating damage, but then when I read 350% damage, I'm like, okay, that's pretty average. But then you also got to think about how he's probably going to be hitting a lot of critical hits because, you know, he's decreasing the opponent's critical resistance by 30%, which is really nice for his kit as well. So they have a higher chance of getting hit by criticals, so it's already going to buff up that damage. But on top of that, he's going to be burning the opponent, a medium chance of burning the opponent for 3 turns, so burn damage. And then on top of that, Hellfire from his plus ultra move and his other action skill, which basically takes all that burning and hits them all at once with it. So yeah, that's why it seems like they made it pretty average. And honestly, I vibe with that. It makes sense. It makes sense. Like, again, I think when I think of Dabi, I think of like massive devastating attacks, but then I also got to remember that like he's got like so much else going on in his kit that I'm like, okay, that makes sense. And then the skill gains Bullseye. Again, cherry on top because having Bullseye in your kit not only helps him with his gimmick, but also it's just really good for PvP. So overall, pretty good. Cooldown time on it is 4 turns. That's okay. It could be better, but it could be worse. So overall, just okay. But yeah, overall, a really cool skill and actually really good because, again, it plays into his gimmicks a couple of different ways with burning the opponent, Bullseye, and decreasing the opponent's critical resistance, actually, because it's really important for you to hit critical hits, which we'll talk about later. Going over to his next action skill, it's called Blue Judgment. It deals 325% damage to your single opponent, decreases the opponent's critical hit rate by 25% for 3 turns, and has a high chance of burning the opponent in Hellfire. This skill gains Bullseye, and the cooldown time on it is 5 turns. So yeah, again, 325% damage, that's average, but again, it makes sense because I explained that before. Same thing with the single opponent, it makes sense, and you can do well with that. So overall, it's pretty standard, like during that like first part of like the action skill, but decreasing the opponent's critical hit rate by 25% for 3 turns is good for 2 reasons. One, because you want to try to take as little damage with Dabi as possible because you really want to try to survive with him. But on top of that, debuffing the opponent is playing into his gimmick as well, so giving the opponent another debuff is just really nice. And then high chance of burning them in Hellfire, again, just another way for you to like hit all of the burn damage at once. He has a couple of different ways of burning in his kit with his first action skill and one of his auto skills, so you know, you'll have like a lot of chances to hit that Hellfires. So yeah, overall, not bad. And then another skill that gains Bullseye, plays into his gimmick, really good for PvP. We talked about this before, so yeah, let's just move on. Cooldown time is 5 turns. That's kind of like bad. I think that's like the worst part about that move, the 5-turn cooldown, because that takes a while and that really like makes you have to build this character a specific way, either with a memory or teammate with cooldown reduction. So yeah, not the greatest, but overall still a really good skill. Like, oh, that's not going to take away from the overall like skill. Like, the skill is actually really good. So yeah, overall pretty good kit so far. So let's look at his auto skill where a lot of his gimmicks like come into play. So for his first auto skill, it's called I'm Not Trusting Anything. Give Sharp Eye, chance of evading 25% to all opponents and allies. So that's good and kind of bad. So giving Sharp Eye to your allies, really good. So that means everyone on your team has a 25% chance to evade an attack. So that's really nice. But giving it to the opponent, that's kind of like, okay, kind of weird. That's kind of like bad. Not for Dabi because he has bullseye on all of his attacks, so he's not going to miss them. But more or less for your teammates, which means your teammates would have to have bullseye on their kit or be a debuffer, which actually plays into what Dabi does, because again, Dabi gives like 2 debuffs from his action skills, and the way Sharp Eye works is it's not the same thing as evasion. Evasion means you basically just dodge like an attack for free, where Sharp Eye, you have a chance at dodging the attack, but on top of that, you can reduce that chance by giving the opponent debuffs. So for every debuff they have, it lowers by 5%, I believe. So he already comes with 2 debuffs built into his kit. So basically you can automatically reduce that down to 15% instead of 25 against the opponents. So that's why I said it's really good to have debuffs in his kit, because he gives the opponent Sharp Eye. So it's kind of like a double-edged sword. He has bullseye to counter that, but then your teammates might not have that. So you really need to have a teammate with debuffs or bullseye, if that makes any sense. So yeah, it's a pretty interesting gimmick overall, but it explains why he has bullseye on all of his moves. So yeah, pretty interesting. Gains burn counter when character's HP is 5% or higher. Burn counter has a medium chance of inflicting burn 3 times or for 3 turns on the opponent when they attack. So yeah, basically if he is 5% or higher, he'll have that burn counter up. So if the opponent hits Dabi, they have a medium chance of getting inflicted with burn for 3 turns. So that's just another way you can burn with Dabi. So that means if they are burning, again, his second action skill has Hellfire and his plus ultra move has Hellfire. So that's just even more damage getting racked up for basically doing nothing, because again, 5% or higher, that's 95% of his health. You know what I'm saying? So like if he's like in that 95% of his health, you basically are probably going to be hitting a lot of burns. Again, it's only a medium chance, but 3-turn burn, not bad for basically kind of doing nothing. And then when the character's HP is below 5%, he also gains another burn counter. So basically his whole health bar, he's got that burn counter up. But the difference is well, on top of that, he has the ability to draw aggro, but the burn counter will inflict burn for 5 turns when the opponent attacks. So instead of 3 turns, it's 5 turns, but also he's kind of drawing aggro. So when he's 5% or lower, or actually no, just lower than 5%, my bad. So yeah, because if it's 5% or higher, so yeah, lower than 5%, he has burn counter still up. So basically for his full health bar, he's burn counter up, but the difference is instead of 3 turns, it's 5 turns, which actually works really nicely for Hellfire. So yeah, but also it's really dangerous because you're below 5% and you're drawing in attacks because you have aggro. Like you're drawing aggro, meaning you're like the main focus of like all the opponent's attacks. So interesting gimmick, but it's really cool that he does have burn counter up pretty much 100% of the time. So yeah, that's just even more ways to burn the opponent and then subsequently hit them with Hellfire. So yeah. After 1 turn passes when the character is covering allies or drawing aggro, decreases character's critical hit rate by 15% up to 6 times, also blocks character's recovery and buffs. So yeah, this is where we're gonna get into more like you need to wrap up the battle quickly with this Dabi, and again that makes sense because if you saw the episode, you know, he's on his way to death, so that makes sense that you want to wrap up the battle quickly with him and finish up the fight. So after 1 turn passes when the character is covering allies or drawing aggro, which we know he does that when his HP is below 5%, decreases the opponent's critical hit rate by 15% up to 6 times. So that's pretty bad because you really need to be hitting critical hits with this Dabi, and we'll see that in his next auto skill. Also blocks character's recovery and buffs. That's just kind of like a negative on its own. That means you can't heal this Dabi at all. So he's basically kind of like on a time limit. Like you really need to wrap up the battle quickly with him before he drops below 5%. So yeah, that's his like whole gimmick. You got to be really quick with this Dabi. So let's go over to his next auto skill because I'll talk about why it's important to be landing critical hits. So his next auto skill is called Deep Resentment. Gives character the ability to make a last stand when burning. So that's really nice. So as long as he's burning, like himself is burning, so that means he's going to be taking burn damage. But if he's burning, he'll have a last stand. And this is why it's important to hit critical hits. Increases character's critical hit rate by 50%. Burns character for 3 turns after the character initiates critical attacks 2 times. So every 2 critical hits, you'll be burning for 3 turns. And you have a critical hit rate up by 50% in this kit, which is actually really good for PvE, because you want to be hitting more critical hits in VE tower. So because of that, when he's burning, he'll have a last stand, which means you can survive on 1 HP while you have that effect on. So you see what I'm saying? He'll be like clinging onto life. But when you get below 5%, it will decrease the character's critical hit rate by 15% up to 6 times. So 15% times 6. You know what I'm saying? So that's why you want to try to keep him above 5% and try to wrap up the battle really quickly. But you also want to be hitting as many critical hits as possible, so that way you can basically hit 2 critical hits to initiate burn on himself. And then when he's burning, he'll have last stand, if that makes any sense. So that's why you want to be hitting critical hits. This effect cannot be nullified or canceled, so you can't nullify the burning, which I don't see why you would want to, because you really need that for his kit. Increases character skill impact by 25% when character is not covering allies or drawing aggro. Again, another reason why you want him above 5%, because when he's below 5%, he'll be drawing aggro. So as long as he's not doing that, it will increase the character's skill impact by 25%. So again, you want to keep him above 5% as long as possible, but again, that's kind of hard because you can't heal him or apply like certain buffs, like increases max HP and stuff like that. So you really want to be wrapping up the battle quickly with this character. Also increases character's critical skill impact by 6% after receiving 2 attacks from an opponent effective by damage taken restore up to 5 times. So I don't think he has anything in his kit that would allow for that. Damage taken restore. Not really sure if that's in his kit, so you might have to run a teammate for that. But increases character's critical skill impact by 6% after receiving 2 attacks from an opponent. With that effect, not bad. I mean, that's just an extra critical skill impact by 6%. That means your critical hits are going to be doing more damage. So, yeah, overall, pretty good. Let me know in the comments below if he does have this damage taken restore in his kit. I'm really trying to think, but his kit has a lot. Like, there's a lot going on with his kit, so I'm really trying to think, but I'm pretty sure he doesn't have anything to do with damage taken restore. I think, yeah, I don't think so. I don't remember reading anything about that. But yeah, overall, like I said, in a nutshell, what you want to be doing with this character is hitting critical hits. So that way he can burn himself, so he has last stand, trying to wrap up the battle as soon as possible. He has burn counter on 100% of the time, but you really want to keep him above 5%, so not only you don't draw aggro, so you can get buffs from that, but also when you're below 5%, it will reduce your critical hit rate by 15% up to 6 times. So you want to keep him above 5% as long as possible and wrap up the battle as quickly as possible. But yeah, that's basically his whole gimmick. You want to wrap up the battle fast. The combo route I probably go with is probably Blue Purge to decrease the opponent's critical resistance, so you have a higher chance of hitting critical hits, and then hit them with Blue Judgment, and then Flash Fire Fish Jet Burn. And again, because both of his other action skills have Hellfire on them, and the fact that his first action skill and his auto skill causes burn, you'll pretty much be triggering that Hellfire pretty frequently. So yeah, overall, it's a pretty cool kit, so let's take him into PvP. Like I said, you can probably use him even in PvE because he gets that critical hit rate up, which is really good for PvE's VE tower, but we'll take him into Ultra Arena because he also seems like he's going to be good for Ultra Arena because he looks like he kind of counters the speed meta in a way with like Bullseye, and he seems like he's going to be interesting there, so we'll take him there and showcase him gameplay wise. Alrighty, I can't even make this up. We just went into maintenance as I tried to switch over to Ultra Arena, so yeah, I will come back after the maintenance is up and then we'll take him in the Ultra Arena and showcase him off. Okay, this is not going to stop us from making this video. Alrighty, so maintenance is finally concluded and now we can jump into Ultra Arena and test out this Dabi gameplay wise. So let's get into it. So I'm thinking we challenge, honestly this bottom team looks pretty interesting even though there's a couple of SRs on the squad. One of them is at least SR plus, but the main reason why is because there are 2 different variants of Dabi on the squad and 1 Todoroki on the team. And given the fact that we want to be burning, like this Dabi wants to be burning himself to kind of like live, this might be a pretty good battle because we've got 3 characters that theoretically should be burning us, and then on top of that, Delta Dabi should be burning himself. So honestly, this could be a pretty interesting team to test him against. So let's go after this team, and here is the team I designed for Delta Dabi. So the memory I gave him is called Beacon of Creation, and the way it works is it will increase characters plus ultra gauge by 20% when the battle starts, which is kind of just nice to have. It's not the main reason why I have this memory on him, but it's a nice bonus because we know his plus ultra move has Hellfire on it. And given the fact that he's going to be constantly like burning the opponent because of that burn counter, and one of his skills burns the opponent directly, you want to try to hit that hellfire damage as much as possible, because it seems like a majority of his damage is going to be coming from critical hits, burning the opponent, and then unleashing that hellfire to make the opponent take all that burn damage in one go. So basically, like let's say for example, you burn the opponent with the first action skill, then with the second action skill you hit them with hellfire because there's a chance for you to do that with a second action skill, and then you burn them with the burn counter, then you unleash the plus ultra move, you get additional damage with hellfire theoretically. So I think this is going to be pretty good because it'll allow you to kind of build up your plus ultra move pretty early on, so you can unleash that plus ultra move as soon as possible. Plus it's also just good to get that like plus ultra move damage in as soon as possible. So I think this is a nice bonus, but the main reason why I have this memory equipped to him is because it will also increase the character's critical hit rate by 20% when equipped by a League of Villains character, which Dabi falls under that category. And we know that we want to be hitting more critical hits with this Dabi, so I think that's why this memory is really good, because not only do you get that nice bonus with that plus ultra gauge increase at the start of the battle by 20%, but also you get a critical hit rate up by 20% because he's a League of Villains character. So I think this memory is going to be pretty good for him, and also he's on the memory, so I think that's also pretty neat. But real fast, if you do pull the memory that's on his gacha banner, definitely run that one, because when a UR character gets released, a UR memory is also put on that same gacha banner, and usually it's tailor-made for the character that just gets released. So definitely run that one if you can. But unfortunately I didn't pull it, but I definitely think this is a good substitute for him theoretically, because again, the critical hit rate up is really good for him, plus the plus ultra gauge is pretty nice. So overall, I think this is a good substitute for him, and that is why I ran this memory. And then the teammates I have working with him is Lady Nagant, because one of her auto skills, called Human Sniper Rifle, will give bullseye to the character for 2 turns and gives character bullseye for 1 turn every 3 turns. So we know Dabi's going to be giving the opponent sharp eye, and the main way we counter sharp eye is with either bullseye or debuffing the opponent, because for every debuff the opponent has, it will decrease that evasion chance by 5%, but might as well just directly counter it with bullseye, and that's why I have Lady Nagant on the squad. And then Celebration yaoyorozu on the squad, because not only is she a meta PvP character because of her support skills, but with her plus ultra move called Winning Attack, it will increase max HP of all allies by 30% for 3 turns and shortens their cooldown time by 1. So ignore that first part, because I'm pretty sure Dabi doesn't get affected by that, because I'm pretty sure he has a recovery block, and I think max HP falls under that category. But shortening their cooldown time by 1 is really nice, because we know Dabi has an action skill with a cooldown time of 5, so that will make it a little more manageable. But on top of that, with her second action skill, Advanced Planning Capabilities, it will cancel the status ailment of a single ally, excluding the character, increases their max HP by 35% for 3 turns, which just ignore that, but power by 35% for 3 turns is really nice, and critical hit rate up by 35% for 3 turns is the main reason why. Also increases character's plus ultra gauge by 20% as well. Again, we want to be hitting more plus ultras. So overall, that's why I have Celebration yaoyorozu on the squad, because she also gives plus ultra gauge increase and critical hit rate up. So that's why I have her on the squad. But yeah, let's just dive into the battle now and let's see how well we do. I'd appreciate it if you go easy on an old acquaintance. Up against number 2, huh? Nothing's gonna hold back my rage today. Oh, that's a pretty cool interaction. I've never seen that one. But yeah, so let's just dive into this battle. So honestly, let's go after Toya Todoroki first, and then probably Hawks, battle damage Hawks. I think that's probably the plan. So yeah, let's do it. Critical hit rate up. And then we'll also use Blue Perch to decrease the opponent's critical resistance to be landing more critical hits. So right away, as you can see, we're going last. And something I've noticed from like labbing this Dabi, like I've been like testing him out in Ultra Arena, it seems like he is pretty slow. So you might want to run like a speed up memory on him, or have a teammate that has speed up. But then again, I haven't like fully built him up yet, so I don't know if that's just me not fully building him up, or if he's just like a slower character, which could be pretty bad for like the speed meta. So I'm not 100% sure yet. I won't know until I fully build him, but let me know in the comments below if he is like a slower character that you might want to try to build a squad around, like maybe boosting his speed a little bit, because from what I can tell, he seems like a little slower, but I'm not 100% sure because again, I haven't fully built him up yet. But on top of that, speaking of team composition, he seems like a character you really need to build the entire squad around. Like, he's a character that gives them sharp eye, the opponents. So you need to have a character with debuffs or bullseye, because again, for every debuff the opponent has, it reduces that evasion chance by 5%, but also bullseye just directly counters sharp eye. So it seems like you really need to have teammates that will counteract that sharp eye the opponents will get from him. On top of that, critical hit rate up seems like it's important, because again, you want to be hitting as many critical hits with him as possible. And on top of that, you would maybe want to run a cooldown reduction or cooldown time reduction memory or teammate on him as well, because again, one of his cooldown times is 5 turns, which is kind of bad. So it seems like you really need to design the squad around him. But if you can do that, I think he'll do pretty well. But if you don't have like a specific team member or like a specific memory, then he might be a little harder to use, which I guess it all depends from a certain point of view. Like if you think that'll be like worth, like I don't know how to describe it, like I don't want to say value. It really depends on your teammates. Like you really need to synergize with your teammates, if that makes any sense. Like he is a character that really requires like the right team, so if you don't have the right team, he might be more difficult to use, is what I'm trying to say. So definitely look out for that. That's just what I've been noticing when it comes to Ultra Arena. But yeah, we won the match. So honestly, I kind of want to showcase him off in VE Tower as well, because he seems like he's going to be a fun character to use in Ultra Arena. But he definitely, honestly, after reading his kit and then testing him out in Ultra Arena, he might be better in PvE. And I'll explain why in that battle. So let's just go over to VE Tower and showcase him off in a mock battle. So we're here in VE Tower, and we're going to be taking him to the Flame stage, and we'll go to difficulty level SS, because I think he can handle it because he's a UR character. And even though the second floor has a red character, which we know is weak against blue type characters, which Dabi is, I honestly want to take him to the third floor because I'm noticing Endeavor, and just like Dabi, I'm kind of drawn to seeing Dabi versus Endeavor. I think that just kind of makes sense. So yeah, let's just take him here for the fun of it, why not? And here is the team I designed for him for this. It's pretty much the same thing with some of these support memories shuffled around for my teammates, but it's pretty much the same thing for Dabi. So yeah, let's just dive into the battle and showcase him off in PvE. Alrighty, there is Dabi's intro. He walks in with like a lot of swag. It looks pretty cool. And yeah, so let's talk about him in PvE terms, because honestly, after reading his kit and testing him in Ultra Arena, like I was saying before, I think he's probably better suited for PvE. And hear me out. The reason why is because when it comes to VE Tower, you want to be hitting more critical hits and plus ultra moves. And given the fact that you want to be hitting more critical hits and plus ultra moves with this Dabi, I really think he'll be really good here, because they match perfectly. Hitting more critical hits and plus ultra moves, they both match. So I definitely think he's going to be better here. And I still think he's going to be fun in PvP. But like I was saying before, during that arena match, you really need to design the team around him. So I think that kind of holds him back from becoming like a meta PvP character. But I really would have to like test him out once he's fully built to like gauge if he's going to be a meta PvP character with or without a certain squad. But that's just from like what I've observed so far from testing him out in Ultra Arena. But real quick, also here's his plus ultra move. It's very cool. He combines a bunch of different attacks he used during that fight against Todoroki at ground 0. He starts up the animation by using Flash Fire Fish, just like he did against Todoroki, but instead of unleashing Hell Spider, he burns them to the ground, and then he blows them into the air with his flames, just like he did after his fist fight against Todoroki, and then hits them with Jet Burn. And I think it's a really cool animation. I love the blue, and it's just very nice, especially with Dabi in all white sticking out. Like, it looks very, very nice. But yeah, like I said, I think he's just going to be a better PvE unit, and just in my opinion, because he just seems like he's been designed for it. He's got more critical hits, like he wants to be hitting more critical hits, which is good for VE Tower. He wants to be unleashing plus ultra moves to get that extra damage in because of that Hellfire addition, which is great for VE Tower. So it just seems like he's going to be a really good VE Tower character. Now, unfortunately, VE Tower really doesn't get too much content as of late, but I think once he comes back, hopefully, he will be doing pretty well in it. Like, I just think that he's going to be doing extremely well. Plus, he will give the opponent critical resistance down, or lower their critical resistance, or critical hit resistance. Sorry, my bad. I'm just trying to figure out the right words for that. Which means they're going to get hit by more critical hits, so that's even perfect for your teammates as well. So I overall think he's just going to be a really good PvE unit instead of a PvP unit. Now, like I said, I think he'll be a fun PvP unit, but I just don't think he's going to be really a meta PvP character. I think he's just going to be a more meta PvE character, just based on my testing. but I still think he'll do well in PvP because he's got such a unique gimmick, and if you can build your team around that gimmick, then you're gonna do well with him. But yeah, that's just my thoughts about Delta Dabi. Again, he's still kind of new, and I still haven't fully built him up yet, but I think he's going to be a fun character whether you use him in PvP or PvE. But like I said, I think I'm leaning more on the side of PvE. I think he's going to be a better unit there. But that's just my final thoughts about Delta Dabi. I know I've been rambling a lot this video, but I honestly think he's a lot of fun, and it's really cool to see this variant in a My Academia game, and hopefully we'll see him more in other My Academia games. But yeah, that is Delta Dabi, My Hero Ultra Impact. If you guys did enjoy, please like and subscribe. That'd be really amazing. And I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I'll see you guys next time.